Well, welcome back to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm so excited today to have Miss Tracy Matthews on the podcast, and we are going to be talking all things sales funnels. So this is fun because it's a conversation that I haven't had on the podcast. We got an expert on the podcast to share with us, and I'm just so excited to dive in. So welcome, Tracy. Thank you for being here.
I am so excited to be here, Monica. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone listening so we can know
Sure.
who you are and what you're about?
So, I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of a company called Flourish Thrive Academy, and we help jewelry business owners launch, grow, and scale successful businesses using my methodology and also the namesake of my book called The Desired Brand Effect. And I've been a jewelry designer for over 30 years, and I love supporting jewelry business owners and helping them stand out in a saturated market with their timeless jewelry brand. And sales funnels are a huge part of that process.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So tell me how you got started with jewelry. Take me back. I know you said you've been a
Oh
designer
gosh,
for
I've been
30
doing this.
years. So just tell us like the origin of how that began.
Yeah, I've been doing it forever. So I'm a little bit older than I look. I started my business back in the 90s. Like some of you were probably born in the 90s. Probably you were, Monica. I don't know. But I was in college and I was taking a class. My mom had just passed away, sadly. And I really, at that time in my life, was like, oh, I got to do something that I am passionate about and like have purpose for. And I was really into fashion at the time. I was working in retail. I worked in these small boutiques and I was seeing like all this jewelry coming on in the independent designer scene back then. And I remember one day I was working at this little boutique in Marina Del Rey where I was going to school. And Cameron Diaz, before Cameron Diaz was famous, came in and spent like $300 on this amethyst pendant, which back in the 90s, $300 was like $1,500. That's what it seemed like. It just seemed like a really expensive purchase. And I was like, people spend a lot of money on jewelry. Maybe this is something that I should explore with this jewelry class that I'm taking. So my teacher mentored me. I kind of got to the place where, okay, I'm going to start this business. It took me a minute, probably like maybe 5 years from that time to actually go full time. But ultimately, I launched my company in 1998, and over the course of 11 years, my products were sold in over 350 stores around the world. I
Wow.
had a ton of press and celebrity placements, like sold millions and millions of dollars of my jewelry. I feel really proud about that. And then in 2008, the world came crashing down, and I didn't have the foresight to kind of see what was going on. And in September of 2008, my business was kind of wiped out. It took
Mhm.
me about a year to wind it down, and we don't have to go into the details of that unless you want to know what really happened. But this inspired like a conversation in my head, like who am I without being a jewelry designer? So I went through this existential crisis and decided that I still wanted to design jewelry. I just had to do it a different way. So I launched a new business, designing custom jewelry for private clients. And that was sort of the beginning of my fine jewelry business, where I started designing engagement rings and wedding bands and heirloom redesigns for people. All of these things were very close to my heart because I had inherited some money, or not money. I didn't, excuse me, I didn't inherited some jewelry from my mother and then eventually my grandmother when she passed away. And it wasn't jewelry that I necessarily liked, but there were valuable assets in it. So I ended up redesigning some of those pieces into things that I wear every day, including this ring right here. And that kind of moved me in this new trajectory. That led to people asking me for consulting support and helping them with their business. And so a couple years after that business became very successful, I decided to launch my coaching and mentoring company, Flourish and Thrive Academy, which we are right on the heels of our 12-year anniversary. I can't believe it. We've been around
Wow.
forever. We're like one of the OGs in this online space. So it's been a wild ride, and we've helped over 9,000 jewelry business owners and
Wow.
other product business owners, mostly jewelry, but sometimes other types of artists and luxury products come in to grow successful businesses. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, that is an incredible story. Like hearing your
Yeah.
entire experience and also hearing the different avenues, like being in a lot of stores and then doing more
Mhm.
custom, because those are two very different
So different.
business strategies and business styles, so that you have experience in both of that. That is awesome. And now you help
Yeah.
people, which is incredible.
Exactly. So one of the things that I kind of learned when I was pivoting is like the way that I grew my business in the beginning was by going to trade shows. It's sort of like the markets that you teach, right?
Yeah.
And those are so exhausting. So the only way that you can really scale and grow is either doing more shows or getting bigger accounts. And like both of those are expensive because you put yourself at risk, like shipping $100,000 orders, especially if they get returned or there's something wrong with it. And then doing more shows are very expensive. And so I was getting really burnt out. And so that was kind of the beginning of selling on the internet in 2011 when I started that company. I was selling a little bit online at the end of my first business, but it was a huge kind of process for me to try to figure out like how do I meet people online and use my website as a tool to attract customers who I've never met and I'm not probably going to meet in person. So it was fun.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love that. And maybe we can tangent on that just for a moment because I think
Sure.
a lot of people have these dreams of, I want to be in this, I want to be in Whole Foods or I want to be in this
Right.
massive store. But you kind of alluded to some of the actual downfalls of that, of like returns and things like that.
Mhm.
So, and then I loved how you pivoted to let me actually sell online and connect directly
Right.
with my customer. So can you talk a little bit for the person who's like dreaming of Whole Foods or I work with a lot of skincare businesses. So a lot of people want to
Yes.
be in Whole Foods in like their
Yeah.
natural section, skincare section. But what are some of those potential drawbacks of being in these really big stores that just have massive leverage?
So, number one, it's great for exposure. So, I will say that, especially if you're branded. The thing with jewelry, though, is sometimes they won't brand you. Like, I would be in Anthropology and they would order my hoops, but they would be on an Anthropology card. So, at that
Mm,
point, it's really just about the money. So, if you're getting branded, you're on the shelves and you have good placement, it can be a great visibility play, especially if you have a great online presence, you're selling on Amazon, Etsy, and selling in some of these bigger stores. The downside, which I think with a lot of things, is discounts, especially for skincare. If you're shipping in a glass bottle, I can imagine you're probably getting breakage. Chargebacks are a big thing. And then also, if the product doesn't sell, a lot of times these stores negotiate like a return policy with you. So that was one of the things that actually took me out. I was selling to QVC, which is completely different than Whole Foods, but I'm sure that there are some similarities. And they placed a big order for that was really big for my company at the time. It was like $67,000 or $80,000, something like that. And they place this order. You have to produce the product right away. You don't really get paid until like after your show, like a little bit before the show happens to help with the supplies. But what happens is like if it gets returned, the product gets returned, they don't put it back on the shelf. They send it back to you. So
mm,
if the consumer on the other end buys it and then they're like, "Oh, this isn't for me. I'm just going to return it." Then you just basically get dinged. And this happens with a lot of major retailers. So you have to be priced enough. You have to probably have the financial backing to be able to do it. You have to be okay like if it doesn't work out, like can you actually afford to do it? Because it's not just about getting the big order. Like the big order is glamorous and it's awesome like if it works out. I would say that Anthropology was a great company to work with because I didn't really have any problems. But the thing is they would negotiate such a huge discount up front that my margin on the product was so low. So if I got $100,000 order from Anthropology, maybe my take home after paying my team and all the expenses was like maybe like $20,000 of that. And so you have to think
mm.
like, could I just sell 10 $2,000 orders and literally make the same amount of money? Or is
Yeah.
this big order worth it? Does that make sense?
Mhm, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think it's just so good to peel back those layers and understand that because it places emphasis on what you ended with of why don't you just sell 1,000 or 100? I don't know what
Mhm.
numbers you said to your actual
Second
customers like
orders have to,
online. Yeah.
yeah,
And build that relationship and have that customer versus I can only imagine how much time and energy and stress to fulfill a massive order like that
so
for then the
stressful.
take home pay to be like 20K. It's like, was this even worth it? Like, cool. And I'm sure it definitely was, but it makes you think about that of like, what are the other avenues? So I just love hearing that because I think a lot of people
Mhm.
want that fairy dust magic pill, that moment of that big order when it's a little bit humbling to be like, listen, focusing on your online business is more safe, more secure, going to grow you in different ways. And yeah, cool. Still like reach out for these opportunities. However, know the drawbacks of them and be prepared for it because it's not going to be this like massive overnight success. Maybe it will be if you're prepared and like, and you know what can potentially happen from it, right?
Exactly. And what I will say is when I went to this new business model, I will tell you that I would never have probably made as much money as I did in my custom jewelry business, in my production line business. Like, even though I was selling millions of dollars more worth of jewelry a year, in or over time in that business versus this lower, like I didn't have inventory. I had a much lower volume. I needed, if I sold one piece or like three pieces for $5,000 each that month, like I would be making more money than I would in my salary at the other business,
Mm.
because it's like all the profit was going to me because I didn't have overhead. And then the pricing also is, I'm going to say variable, because like literally there's not as much of a standard that you have to stick to with pricing for a custom jewelry business. And I know not a lot of people in your audience maybe are doing custom high-end offerings, but I just found really quickly that the sales aren't necessarily the profitability and success of your business. It's really about the margin that you're taking home and how you can communicate value and get a great product in front of the right people. And
Mm.
sometimes like a slower model can actually be much more profitable if you're willing to do the work that it takes to create a high touch experience for those people, because people who are spending more money need more hand holding. They do want something unique, and they want to know that what you're going to be delivering to them at the end of the day is what they want, and it's
Mhm.
an intuitive process, so it's completely different.
Yeah. Oh my
In a
gosh, I
way.
love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. Okay, that was awesome. That was great to have your insight there. So, what we're
Yeah.
going to actually dive into even further now is sales funnels. And I want to start with just a basic question. What is a sales funnel? Tell us what this is, because I think people may have heard it, but maybe don't know
Mhm.
what it is or apply it. So, let's go to the basics.
I wish we had some visuals here, Monica, because it would be easier to explain. But a sales funnel is just a process that you take someone through to get them from a cold lead into a buyer. And you've seen like marketing funnels, like the stages of awareness. We call it know, like, trust over here at Flourish and Thrive, where you're building trust with someone and then eventually they become a liar. Not a liar. You're building trust with someone and eventually they become a buyer. And then if you do a great job, then eventually they become a loyal customer who buys from you more than once. And what we're always trying to do is move people through that process to become a loyal customer. Now, sales funnels can be delivered in a lot of different ways, especially in an online business. And they start at any touch point where someone is encountering you for the first time. So I just interviewed Monica on my podcast about Etsy. That would be a front end touch point for a sales funnel. An ad might be a front end touch point for a sales funnel. Your Instagram might be a front end touch point for a sales funnel. Meeting someone in person, like there's so many ways that you can meet people who could potentially become your customers. SEO, like all the things that we do to get people to find us, is like the beginning of your sales funnel. What happens after that is what's the most important part of the process, though. And this is where I see a lot of people missing the mark because they don't understand how to move someone through a customer journey.
hmm So tell me a little bit. We talked about like the different types of sales funnels, and basically, like you said, any first point interaction is the start of
Yeah.
it. Is there one that you specialize in or see that people are missing the mark on the most? Or is it like, where do you see people have room to growth in terms of the different types?
Sure. Well, let me backtrack really quickly because there's three automations. Actually, there's 5 automations that you can have on your website that are hooked up. But there's 3 that you must have. If you don't have these, you're literally leaving money on the table. So the first is an opt-in or a nurture sequence on your website. And most people have an opt-in for like a discount or free shipping or something like that. But most of you don't have the important emails that are scheduled after that. You're just delivering a discount and stopping there. Um, Post-purchase sequence. This is a really valuable sales funnel to get someone to buy from you again and also create social proof for you, and an abandoned cart sequence. And email has changed a lot over the last couple of years, but it is still the most valuable marketing tool that you have to get people to come back to your business. And when you can use advertising as another tool in your sales funnel, you have a different kind of opportunity to get people back to see your products if you're setting it up the right way. And
hmm
the other 2 sales funnels, just in case you're curious, are a win back campaign. So this is basically sending an automated sequence to someone who hasn't purchased in a while, who was once a customer. And then there is a sunset sequence. This is basically giving someone an opportunity to opt back into your list if they haven't been active for a while. And if
hmm
they opt not to, you definitely want to clean those people off your list, because if you don't, you're basically hurting your email marketing stats. It's not the size of the list, it's the quality of the list. And
Mhm.
so anyone who hasn't been active for a certain period of time, you definitely want to remove them or try to re-engage them, so to
Beautiful.
speak.
I love
Hmm.
it. So this, what we're talking about here is the sales funnel specifically like on your website from some sort
Yes.
of action, like you mentioned, an opt-in or a post purchase. And then it's the subsequent things that happen after, which
Yes.
should get people to then purchase again. So that's how it turns into the sales funnel. Is that correct? I love
That's
it.
right. And you want me to walk you through like what I would recommend on
Yeah,
like an opt-in sequence? Okay,
sure.
cool. So the purpose of your opt-in sequence, especially for smaller brands, is number one, to deliver something of value in exchange for an email address. So what most people do in a product-based business is they send them a discount or they there's apps like Klaviyo, which we recommend to use for automated email sequences. That's one of our favorites. You can also sign them up for SMS text, which I recommend doing because SMS still is a really powerful way to get people to buy your jewelry if you're using it in the right way. But you can deliver whatever it is, the free shipping code or the discount for the first purchase. But what happens when someone isn't necessarily ready to buy, but they fill out their email thing and you give them the discount code and they haven't purchased yet? Well, if they don't buy and you're not doing anything on the back end, then you've basically just lost a customer or the potential to market to that person. So what we teach, especially for the smaller brands, like if you're a huge company, they probably do something a little bit different. But people love buying from small business. But the thing that is important about buying from a small business is to understand like who they are, what they stand for, and then also people just want to know kind of like what are people buying and all those things. And so in an opt-in or a nurture sequence, when someone first opts into your email list, I would definitely deliver whatever the promise is that you've offered them, the discount code or the free shipping or whatever that is. The next email for delivery though should really be something that shares a little bit more about your brand story. And what we're always trying to do in these emails is to get people to go back to your website. You don't want to write a novel in the email. What you want to do is tease what you're talking about and then send them to a landing page on your website, not just the website homepage, but maybe something where it's particularly set up for this particular email where it shares your whole story. It could potentially be your about page, but you might want to optimize the page a little bit more. And then in that email, you should also reiterate that they have a limited time to use the code, whatever that is. And then also share some of your best sellers and reviews inside of that email.
Mhm.
So that is like the first thing. And the reason why we're trying to get someone on your website is when someone lands on your website, then you can retarget them with an ad. There's a lot of apps out there that automatically will start retargeting people who have landed on your website landing page and then start sending them ads around the internet. Have you ever seen that when you go like to J. Crew or like one of these companies and all of a sudden the shoes you were looking at are like sitting next to
Everywhere.
you on Facebook? Yeah. You're seeing them
Everywhere.
everywhere. Well, that's what that is. That's retargeting. And retargeting is the cheapest way to get into advertising. Front end advertising is very expensive. Retargeting is much less expensive when it's done the right way. And there's a bunch of apps. I think like I might be getting this wrong, but I think there's an app called smile.io that you can use with Shopify.
Mhm.
I might be getting that app wrong. I'm not sure, 100% sure, but there are different apps that will do this for you. Then the second email should be something where you're showing social proof. So this would be reviews about your product, your best sellers, customer wearing your product, something where they can really start to feel a little bit more about who this brand is for and what's going on. Then the third email should be a little bit more of a harder sales email where you're just like, hey, your discount code's running out. Here's an opportunity for you to get it. Go now before the code runs out. And then the last 2 to 3 emails are optional, but this is recommended if you're really trying to get someone to buy because that's the whole purpose. You want them to buy immediately because the faster they buy, the faster they can turn into a repeat customer. So the last 2 emails maybe offer an incentive to buy now. So maybe it's offering like a gift with purchase, maybe it's an additional discount or something else that you can offer them to get them towards that buying process. Now, I know a lot of you listening are being like, I don't want to be salesy, but if you're running a business, like the whole purpose of you running a business is to get people to buy from your posts. And there's a little bit of wiggle room and some different ways that you can think through this. Like you can add a little bit more content maybe in those first 3 emails. But once again, the purpose entirely is to get people back to your website and get them to a squeeze page or some sort of landing page that's focused on whatever it is in that email so that they can buy. So if you're talking about bestsellers, create a landing page with your collection of all your bestsellers. If you're talking about people love these products, then show some images of your customers with people love the products and their reviews and stuff like that, and a way for them to buy. Now, this is a little bit more complicated than sending them directly to your collections page or your homepage, but if your objective is sales, optimizing this over time can be really powerful for you to grow your business. So that's the first one. Now, yeah. Now, the next most important one is a post-purchase sequence, because once someone's raised their hand, they have told you that they like what you do. So I would send out obviously notification of shipping message. Then I would send them out a couple of days later when after the package has arrived to make sure something that looks more like a personalized email that makes sure that they got it and that everything's okay. If you have the capacity to text message them too, or you've gotten their SMS number after they opted in, then I would definitely also send them an SMS message saying like, hey, I noticed your shipment arrived. Do you have any questions? Or let me know how you're enjoying the piece. Then the next email that should go out is literally a call for a review and or like, hey, show us how you're wearing it so that you can get social proof. Come visit us on Instagram, take a snap, tag us, like whatever you can do to get someone showing that they're wearing the piece and creating social proof for you. And then the following emails after that are like, thank you so much. And they don't have to be right away. They can be over a longer period of time. Like, hey, I noticed it's been about a week or 2 weeks since you purchased your product. I noticed that you didn't grab the earrings that went with that. Like, here's more things that you might like. And there's technology that can help you do this. Or if that's too complicated for you, just send them back to some of your best-selling products or testimonials and reviews where they can experience that and give them another incentive to buy again. Another thing that I like to do as a manual add-on to your sales funnel once someone purchases, and this is such a great strategy and so many people are afraid to do it, is to manually text someone from your business phone or a cell phone, whatever it is, and literally follow up. Hi, Julie, it's Tracy from Tracy Matthews Jewelry. I'm just checking in. I shipped your order about 2 weeks ago. I wanted to see how you're enjoying it. Wait for them to respond. Their mind's probably going to be blown when they hear this, because they're going to be like, is this a real person or is this automated? And like, let them know that it's like you, a real person. Oh, thank you so much for checking in. And they'll tell you whatever. And if there's a problem with the piece, they're going to tell you that this is a great opportunity for you to solve a customer service problem. So don't get upset if that's the case. And then after you start a conversation, follow up again and say, hey, I have these earrings on my website. I only have a couple pairs left and they go great with this necklace. I just wanted to send them to you because I only have a couple pairs left. Would you be interested in checking them out? Let me know and I'll send you the link. And you text them a picture, send them the link. And sometimes they won't respond and they'll say no, but other times they're just going to be like, oh, not right now. But thank you so much for following up. Sometimes they're going to buy it. And this is a great way to build your sales and to get people to buy from you a second time, because we know that it's 80% easier to sell to someone a second time than to acquire a first time customer, and also 10 times less expensive. So the more that you're doing that to deliver a great experience for people, the more chances are that they'll come back to buy from you again and think of you when they have gifts to buy, especially if the price point is right. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, let me ask you a question on that last part of the SMS, the personal text message. I love that because it's like the personal touch that most people won't do, and that totally makes you stand out. I want to know your opinion on what type of business does this make sense for? Because I know you coming from like fine jewelry,
Right.
absolutely. Do you think this makes sense for someone who sells skincare and like $12 bars of soaps at a higher volume? Or is this more like maybe something custom or a higher ticket product? Or just what do you think?
This might be a great opportunity if you have a lower end product. For jewelry at not a high volume, like obviously like super fine jewelry, this should 100% be done. There should be no questions asked that you're doing this. even if you're not selling them something, that customer service piece when someone's dropping several $1,000s with you is like a must do. Let's say you're shipping 100 units a month. It's not that hard to send out 100 text messages. So
Mhm.
I would definitely get into it. Once you start getting into higher volume, lower price point, I feel like there's a way to automate this where you can have a manual text message go out um, that is, you know, works in alignment with like the requirements of all the GDPR stuff like that. I'm not an expert in that, so I'm not pretending to do that. But if you're using a platform like Klaviyo or some of these other email marketing platforms that have SMS embed, or you're using a separate SMS marketing platform, there's a way to do it with technology where
Yeah.
it just integrates with your app. So you could just, it literally is just like a follow up 2 weeks later. And there are certain SMS apps that can do two-way messaging. So I would recommend just trying to find something that does it two-way. And
Mhm.
that way you could just have your customer service person be the person who handles that, or a VA if it's getting a little bit overwhelming for you.
Beautiful. I love that.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's a perfect distinction of super high end, absolutely do it coming from you. And if it is more lower price, higher volume, get the tech. Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you have,
Yeah.
speaking of SMS, do you have any other strategy on, let's say it's the more automated side or even with the one-to-one? What comes next? How often do you keep messaging them? Is it just when you have a sale? Is it when there's something new? Is it like
Mm.
because I think that's where people get hung up too on, okay, what's important enough to text people on a monthly or weekly or whatever cadence. So what does that look like for you?
Okay, so I recommend that people email market at least once a week. If you market 3 times a week, you're probably going to get a lot more sales. I know it's scary for people who have very small lists. They're like, people are opting out. Well, people who don't want to get your emails don't want to get your emails. And I think the most important thing is if you're seeing a very high unsubscribe rate, maybe take a look at what's in the emails and figure out how can I provide more value so people actually are excited and want to open my emails. So people love shopping from small businesses. And the thing with email marketing these days too is like, do you ever feel bad if you got an email from a brand that you love and you didn't open that email? No, you just delete it. And like the next time they send one, you open it up. So most people are the same. Like I have an email inbox right now with 8,000 unread emails. It's my shopping one that I'm on all the lists. So regularly I'll go in there and unsubscribe from the brands that I don't necessarily want to hear from anymore. But the smaller brands, like the piercing studio that I go to in New York City to get my ears pierced, like I love getting their emails. I may not see most of them, but the next time I'm in New York, I'll go run an errand, like Jason calls it, and
Hmm.
probably get another piercing and go buy like a $500 earring from them. So don't think of it that way. This is really about the long game. It's not about the short game. And if you have something that is, a consumable product like skincare, people are going to be looking at your sales opportunities anyway because they have to replenish. And
Mhm.
also, you probably teach people that if you do skincare, like try to get people to subscribe to it so that you don't have to um, wait for new orders. Some
Mhm.
people are hesitant, like I don't subscribe to skincare, but like it is a great model because a lot of people don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Think about having to like look it up to reorder and the whole thing, but it is a great thing for the people who want that.
Mhm.
So back to the marketing piece, like when you're emailing people through what I like to call like content pillars, or we call it know like trust over here, you can rotate your emails to talk about different things under the lens of those ideas. So like maybe once a month you're emailing people a story, to get them to know a little bit about of the behind the scenes of your business that goes to a blog post where you're still getting people on your website, because remember, we will need to get them out of the email onto your website. That improves your click-through rate. That also gives you an opportunity to serve ads to people later. So less in the email, get them to the website, pique curiosity in those emails. Other emails, like you should definitely be sending a couple of promotional emails out every single month, sharing new products, bestsellers, things that you're offering. Don't worry about bothering people. If they don't want to be on their email list, your email list, they will unsubscribe. But this is just a reminder that you should always be building your email list with new
Mhm.
subscribers and trying to get those people to buy from you.
Mhm.
And then another thing that you can be sending out is like, here's how she wore it, or I just got featured in this magazine, or oh, look, this celebrity's wearing my piece, or look at these reviews that I got, or my customer, Tansy, loves my product. Look at what she said about my thing and show the pieces. So these like kind of different lenses of social proof to kind of show that. I mean, I personally don't think people really care about celebrities and magazines and stuff like that anymore. Like it's fun to have, and you can use the logo and the icon. I really don't think that they um, help get you sales, like, but they do build trust. So like maybe over time, like if you're featured, like I'm working with a VIP client right now who it's like, oh, well, this was just an L and this was on this Camila Cabello and like this celebrity and that celebrity. And I'm like, it's not the 90s and early 2000s. I don't think people really care that much
Mm.
anymore, but it is great for your publicity portfolio. So definitely use it, but that's not the reason why people buy, because everyone gets, I mean, I've had so many celebrities wear my jewelry. It didn't lead to one sale. Like I can't
Mm.
lead it back to one sale. It did offer me some social proof, like, but
Yeah.
I mean, unless they bought the jewelry. In that case, it did lead to a sale. Like, because I had a lot of celebrities buying it at one of my accounts in New York City, but that's a different story. Um, so anyway, I little bit lost my train of thought, but does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
how does, I think just one thing to drill in further, because that totally makes sense. Like have your email strategy and your content pillars
Yeah.
and send emails to remind people and promote and share social proof. What about for SMS though? Is that just only when you have a promotion, maybe keep it more limited, or do you have any specific guidelines on text message,
Oh my
like
gosh.
what to
I
share in
love
that
this.
point?
I mean, it seems like so long ago, but when during COVID, I was on the email list for this bra company in New York. I bought one of their like bralettes once. I loved it. And then I came and moved to Arizona unexpectedly and thought I was going to be here for 2 weeks. I left all my stuff at home. My assistant was then out of the city. She couldn't get into my apartment. And I had to buy like basically all new lingerie and bras. But they would send me texts like every single week, like back in stock after being sold out 10 times, like buy this bundle, like do this, do that. So it was like, I think you can rotate it through a variety of things, but it's about giving them a reason to get on your website to look. So sometimes it is a sale, sometimes it's a fresh look, best sellers back in stock. Like just think of different angles. Like it's not just about putting stuff on sale, like new products, or here's what so and so, or here's a valuable tip. Like I think something that um, my friend Taylor, the company has like was sold since then, but they used to do SMS marketing for jewelry and other product businesses, and they did a really good job with it. And one of the things that he said, he's like, we rotate through content, so we're giving valuable content in those SMS to get them onto our blog to be able to retarget them once again with ads, and also
Mhm.
use that blog post as a way to sell the product but also deliver valuable content. So people wonder, like, do I need to be blogging? This is the reason why you blog. It's because it gives you something to share. And
Mhm.
it's not about like always having to create new stuff for everything. Like you can mirror what's on your social media, in your emails, in the other things. It's not like about reinventing the wheel. And then in 3 months, you could repurpose all the stuff that you did 3 months before, as long as it's evergreen type of content. You don't have to necessarily be thinking about new stuff all the time. It's
Mhm.
just about creating like a content machine that turns into your sales funnel, and you're hitting people at all the places. It's like if there was like a circle in the center of like a bunch of air bubbles, like around that circle with arrows pointing towards the center of the circle. Each of those touch points is part of your sales funnel, getting people to actually buy your product. So just thinking of different ways, like get them back to your website, get them back to your website, get them back to your website, and then have a high converting website that tells people what to do with beautiful imagery, and that actually when someone lands there, you said this on my podcast, that they feel a connection to your brand. Like if they don't feel connected to the photography, if they don't feel connected to the offer, if they don't feel connected to the products you're delivering, then they won't buy. But if they do, and the website's beautifully designed and it makes sense and it's an easy website to buy from on like Shopify platform, guys, then it's going to be really easy for people to buy from you and want to buy from you.
I love it. So good. So good. Okay, I have one question to
Yeah.
round out. I know you mentioned a little bit about retargeting with ads.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you mentioned maybe it's smile.io, which I'll look into. But what I want to ask you is the only ads that I really know is like tried and true Facebook ads of going into
Mm-hmm.
Business Facebook Manager. Now, you're saying that there are apps that can keep track
From
of who got on the website and then can do some sort of ads to show that content to people, those products to people.
From what I understand, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Although I have not looked it up recently, but I do know that many of our students have plugins with Shopify, and then that connects with the Facebook Ads Manager so that you
Okay.
don't have to go set up your own ads. Obviously, doing it on the Facebook Ads Manager is also an option. It's just for most people who can't afford to hire an ads team
Yeah.
can be a little bit cost prohibitive. So,
Okay.
like advertising agencies charge anything from 1,000, and usually those people aren't necessarily great ads managers, but like anything from 1,000 all the way up to $10,000 a month. And so most product-based businesses, until they're doing several $100,000 a year or more, can't usually afford to get in with an advertising agency
Hmm.
unless there is a plan to scale. And so this is something where it's just another touch point, and retargeting ads instead of front end ads are so much less expensive, especially if they're working. So that's one thing that I recommend everyone looking into trying to figure out. And then, there's always another thing too, is like when, I don't even want to get into this, but like Pinterest is a whole nother strategy where you can use that as a traffic driving tool. And I don't know if you can retarget on Pinterest with people landing on your website. Probably not, but that would
Mm-hmm.
be really cool if they did that.
Yeah.
Pinterest, get that going.
Yeah. I love it. I think that's great though. Like, let's see if there's a Shopify tool that
I'm
does
pretty
this.
sure that it's called smile.io, but I might
Cool.
be, if not, you're gonna have to edit that part out and we're gonna
Yeah.
figure out the right tool. And you're just like, well, we're editing this.
I love it.
But I know that there
Yeah.
there have been in the past. I can't, now that you're questioning, I'm like, I don't know, is there one
Yeah.
like right now? But people have used it. So
I love that though, because I think one thing, just to iterate what you said, is the retargeting ads are a lot cheaper. So that's like when someone
yes.
already landed on your website and you're just saying, hey, show my product or show this ad to this person who already landed here. That's much cheaper because you're telling exactly who to target versus a front end ad on Facebook is like, find me people who may like this. And you're asking
Mhm.
Facebook to like do all this work and find the right people, and you have to spend a lot of money to get that data. So I think
Yeah,
that's genius of like, are there really simple retargeting applications on Shopify to add that, oop, reminder, you were just looking at this, you were just looking at this to get more sales. I love
exactly.
that. I think that's gold. So good.
Mhm.
So good.
So good. And then also, like the one other thing that it does is if you eventually do want to do more ads on Facebook, you start building like an audience of people who have landed on your website and potentially like it. Especially when people start buying, you can upload that audience to your ads manager and start to find more people like those people.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, anything else you want to share with us, Tracy? I know this
No,
was like so much great information.
I hope
Anything
so.
else? Or you
No,
feel good? Oh, that was awesome.
I
So
do.
good.
That
Well,
was
tell
awesome. Thanks
people
for
where they
having
can
me.
find you.
Yeah, you can check me out on Instagram at flourish_thrive or at Tracy Matthews NY. I have a podcast called Thrive by Design. And then I also wrote a book that, even though it's was written for jewelry business owners, is great for any product business owner, called The Desire Brand Effect. You can find that over at thedesirebrandeffect.com or on Amazon.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link that in the show notes so people can
Thank
find
you.
you. And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.